episode 108 of PIV's NXT Point of View podcast. My name is Bill Pivots. So this week was the fallout from NXT TakeOver Orlando. Before we get into it, I do want to congratulate the Revival for making their debut on Raw, and for Tye Dillinger and Shinsuke Nakamura for making their debut on SmackDown. Also, Oney Lorcan made his debut on 205 Live this week, so congrats to the former NXT stars. The show kicked off with highlights from TakeOver. The show was taped before TakeOver, so you're not going to see any of the main stars on this episode. They're going to have a lot of backstage segments and a lot of recaps of TakeOver, kind of filling in the spot. We got advertised that Heavy Machinery versus the Bollywood Boys, and Oney Lorcan would be in action against a mystery opponent. The first match was Peyton Royce against Aliyah. Aliyah was in control for a little bit. Billie Kay tried getting involved, which Peyton took advantage of and caught her with a spin kick. She had Aliyah in a modified tarantula in between the ropes. Aliyah came back with 2 hip tosses and a jumping senton, kind of like a Luthez press. Peyton landed a running knee and a fisherman suplex to get the win. For 2 or 3 minutes, however long it was a decent match. Its main purpose was to put Billie Kay and more importantly, Peyton Royce back on the map in the women's division. We got some highlights of the 8-person tag team match and the women's title match. Asuka was interviewed after the match asking who was next. She responded by asking who's left. That's about an appropriate response. She's ran through this women's division 2 times over. Unless they're going to try to build Ember Moon back up and go along with that storyline still, there's really no one else for her to defeat. After another commercial break, we got highlights of the Aleister Black-Andrade Cien Almas match. Second match of the night was Heavy Machinery against the Bollywood Boys. Tucker Knight had one of them in a bear hug and then tossed him over to Otis. One of the other Bollywood Boys danced a little bit, and then he just got his head squashed by the 2 big men running into each other. I kind of was checking my phone during this match, and somehow the Bollywood Boys got in control of Otis. Otis countered a double suplex and suplexed them both at the same time. He then got the hot tag to Tucker. He ran over both Harv and Gerv. Otis had Harv in like a power slam, kind of like Mark Henry's slam. Tucker Knight ran on his back, and the 2 fell forward, crushing, I think it was Harv, and got the win. Despite it being a typical squash match, I actually enjoyed this match. Heavy Machinery, I gotta admit, are fun to watch. They're 2 big men, but they move around pretty well. They have really good agility. That's 2 different finishes they've had in their 2 matches. I guess they're just trying to see which one sticks. I don't remember the one that they had their last match, but this one I liked a lot, just having the 2 big men just crush one of their opponents underneath them. It makes for a pretty big visual. Lorcan was interviewed backstage. He said that his opponent doesn't matter, and he's going to go out there and do what he does best. We got highlights of the amazing 3-way tag team match. AOP and Paul Ellering were backstage. Ellering called this win a vindication and a confirmation, and he called the Authors of Pain a dynasty. We got a lengthy video package for the NXT title match, and then transitioned into Nakamura's time in NXT, beginning with his debut. Obviously, he's done here. They're kind of giving him a send-off here, just showing everything that he's done. After that, Bobby Roode was interviewed. He said that he did what he said he was going to do, and the glorious ride of Bobby Roode's NXT will continue. Drew McIntyre, who is ringside at TakeOver Orlando, was interviewed. He said that he's traveled the world and won championships all over, and the next target is the NXT championship. And he said, just to be clear, that means he signed with NXT, and he will make his debut next week. Third match and the main event of the show was Oney Lorcan against a mystery opponent, and that ended up being a masked superstar by the name of El Vagabundo. He looked very similar to someone that we recently lost in the NXT roster, Elias Sampson. Very similar. I didn't think it was him, because obviously they looked very different. Nigel was playing up that he was actually a real star with this historic backstory. Percy Watson was a little skeptical. Obviously, we knew who it was. I'm just playing along here. The crowd popped more for this than they have throughout Elias Sampson's whole career. They were giving him a chance. They were booing Oney Lorcan. El Vagabundo asked who wants to walk with him, and the crowd started chanting C. He started playing the guitar and insulted the crowd in the process. Lorcan stopped him, and actually the crowd booed. He said he knows he's the drifter, and then the crowd chanted no. I don't know what the hell was going on with this Orlando crowd. Obviously, it's a WrestleMania crowd, so it's a mixed bunch here. But the fact that they were actually getting this over and booing Oney Lorcan, considering he's a fan favorite, was pretty surprising. Onto the match, Vagabundo stomped on Lorcan. We actually got a Vagabundo chant. After the commercial break, he kept in control with some holds. Lorcan dodged a splash and landed 8 hip attacks in a row in the corner. And after about the 4th one, and then from there on out, after each one, the crowd just began booing louder. got a little boring, I got to admit. It was pretty cool the first time he's done it, but just 8 hip attacks in a row, it kind of drags on a little bit. Vagabundo landed a clothesline out of the corner. Lorcan countered a body slam and pulled off the mask in the process, revealing it to everyone that it was Aliyah Sampson. Lorcan hit a running blockbuster after that to get the win. We had a female security guard walk down after that, trying to escort Aliyah Sampson out. He tried to get back in the ring, but she pulled him by his hair and then dragged him out of the they weren't a Full Sail, out of whatever arena they were at. The match was what it was. It was more of the gimmick of Aliyah Sampson in the mask, but the pre-match stuff was actually pretty cool. I was wondering if they would do this week in and week out with different gimmicks for Aliyah Sampson, but the fact that they took the mask off during the match kind of ruins that. And there's also a rumor that he and Andrade Cien Almas are main roster bound next week with the Superstar Shakeup. Not really excited about seeing Aliyah Sampson on the main roster, but Andrade Cien Almas has definitely stepped up, and I think he could be a good mid-card heel, similar to Dolph Ziggler, not as charismatic. This does make a couple openings in the NXT roster on the heel side, so maybe we could get some new talent. I don't know who they're going to push, because it seems to be more babyface heavy on NXT, unless they flip someone or bring someone up from the touring group that hasn't been on TV yet. But who knows? We'll see what happens after next week's shows. Overall, this episode, though, it was pretty missable. It was obviously taped before TakeOver, so they're not going to have any of the main guys on the card. Heavy Machinery is a fun tag team, and the stuff before the main event was pretty cool, too. Next week, we have Drew McIntyre making his NXT debut. And a somewhat related note, they put a lot of the old episodes of NXT on the WWE Network, going back to like 2012 and 2013, with the rise of Seth Rollins being the first NXT champion, Wyatt family, The Shield, all that fun stuff. So if you haven't caught up with NXT or you're just getting into it, definitely check out those old episodes, see where some of your favorites started off. Because I was looking through the previews and seeing a young Charlotte and Sasha and Seth Rollins and all that, just it's surprising to see how much they transform in that short amount of time. Alright, well, that's all I got for this episode. Check me back next week with episode 109. Follow me on Twitter at @bpiv_sports. Like, comment, subscribe to the show on YouTube. I'll check you back next week. Peace.